From the Studio 13 Studios in Splendora, Texas.
Well, hello everyone, this is Jim Spigener again. This is our fourth episode, and today we have the privilege of having Harry Hardman on. Harry, just a little background on Harry. He's kind of shy, but I'm really not. Harry was, I met Harry when we ran for directors of the Lone Star Water Board. That's how it was a good thing. I'm consider myself a great friend and admirer of Harry's. Harry was the president of the water board before I became. And before we get too far into this show is not about the water board, and I'm not speaking for the board, but I think it's good that you do understand that Harry and I both have had pretty extensive experience in Lone Star groundwater in the county. And Harry did a really fabulous job of running the board for a couple of years, I guess, at least 2 years, and left me a pretty easy job to step in and take his place. And the reason Harry left the board was he went to Conroe and became a city councilman. Conroe was in need of some new leadership, and Harry stepped in there and took over that. So he's been a great help, I believe, to the county, being able to do things in Conroe. Conroe is probably the biggest water user in the county, and Harry is their water guy. I mean, he's the guru over there in Conroe, and he's done a tremendous amount, I think, to help the citizens and the water situation in Conroe. Harry actually was involved in water even before the water board. I know he was a mud board director in Houston somewhere, Champions or somewhere. Champions, yeah. And so I've asked Harry to come on, and really what I'm looking for. Harry's got I think is in a unique place. Conroe, like I said, is the biggest single water user in the county, I believe. And so Harry, I think, brings a unique perspective on that I think it will serve our listeners well. As everybody knows, the thing I'm trying to do on this water show is get the conversation moving toward, what does the water situation in Montgomery County look like? Not just tomorrow. I'm not worried about tomorrow. What I'm worried about is 2035, 2040, 2045, 2050. I don't think anybody believes that this county's growth is going to slow down anytime soon. We've had and I don't want to get into all this, but we've had a pretty bad start on water planning and how we're going to do water in this community going forward. So I'm trying to bring people on who have different perspectives and can help us further the conversation about what we're going to do and what's the right thing to do about water in Montgomery County. So thanks for coming on, Harry.
Well, thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it. First and foremost, I do consider you a dear friend, so I appreciate the invitation. And just to be clear, I am the water guy, not the water boy. So just to be clear about that. And I think I do bring a unique perspective, because that was one of the fundamental reasons why I ran for city council. That plus my masochistic tendencies kind of led me to that role. But sitting in this chair on city council for just over a year now, it has given me a different perspective. And it's taken me from the district's perspective, from the Lone Star perspective, as far as governing it from the holistic perspective from the county. Because when I first ran, I was the at-large person, so I represented all the county, to the president. And then now from the Conroe seat, you see this issue from several different perspectives. I would say first and foremost, we're still very blessed to be in Montgomery County.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of water. Now, where is it? How easy is it to get to? And
how expensive?
And how expensive is it going to be? Those are the three different questions. And where you live, and how well your city or town or corporation has done, how well they've done in their planning, those are 3 different answers or more. And so I would say that in Conroe's case, we've experienced hyper growth over the last decade and a half. Being one of the top 10 fastest growing cities sounds really good, but it really puts a huge challenge on infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we're no exception. It's especially when it comes to just the very basic things that cities should do: streets, sewer, water, fire, police, all of these things. And so when you talk about water, it's not just the accessibility of it, but how do you treat it? How do you get it to residents? How do you do all these things? From our perspective, one of the things we didn't do as a city, we never charged an impact fee to developers. And that is a fee that is usual and customary in most cities, because when a development comes in, it does have an impact to the city. And so we historically never charged that. And so we have found ourselves in a position where we're financially challenged now to fund a lot of these projects that we need to get done, because we just went ahead and took the...
Can I ask
Sure.
you, can I just hold it for just a second there? Because this impact fee is, to me, is a big issue. Not the impact fee itself, but the paying for all of this stuff. So what happens is we build infrastructure, we do all kinds of things, and we're not really good at seeing the two-off consequences, I call it. So there's immediate consequences for everything we do, and then there are other consequences that come later as a result of, and then other consequences that come as a result of those consequences. So let me see if I can put this impact fee maybe thing in a little bit of perspective, and you can add your perspective.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go, it's such a rat hole so early, so
That's
please
right.
get ahead.
No, this is not a rat hole. This is important, because here's the reality. So a developer comes in to Conroe, and they're going to tap into the infrastructure of Conroe, the police, fire, and all that, and water. All right, which takes Conroe's ability, their any excess capacity they have, they start to use it up. Meaning now Conroe's got to build more infrastructure, or drill deeper wells, or go get more surface water, or whatever. And then there's the sewer and all that other stuff that goes along with it. And then if we get to a place where we don't have excess water and we have to end up recycling water, that's going to cost even more. So unless we find a way to sort of put money in the bank a little bit, and I don't mean it literally, but put money back for the consequences that we can't see, we end up in a place where now all of a sudden the taxpayer's having to pay for it, not the person who actually did the development.
Well, that's it, and that's one of the things that we're looking at that, and we're going to start charging impact fees as soon as we can. There's a process we need to go through, because it's about the folks who are developing need to help subsidize the incremental costs that the city is incurring. Right, the people that live here should not be bearing the full burden of new development. Right, so because it does have an impact on the cost to everybody. So we welcome people, and I mean, I'm talking about Conroe specifically, but you look at Magnolia,
all
right?
of them.
Everybody. And so one of the really big results, or the consequences, or I guess the results of the pandemic, and we're seeing this here, is that work is what you do, not where you go anymore. Right. And so I think that has been the result of that is the huge influx of people that we've seen from all over the country.
Who can come to Conroe now and not have to work downtown.
Yeah, as long as I have a good internet connection, I don't care where I work or where I live. Right. And so.
And now I'm using Conroe's water.
Conroe's
water. The city of Houston.
And not the city of Houston. Or
whatever,
Iowa or wherever.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that huge influx of people in Montgomery County overall, and that's really put a big burden on us. And so we have to think very strategically about this, because I don't, to your earlier point, I don't see this. I ran on a platform of strategic, sustainable growth. The lifeblood of any city is growth. but we need to do it strategically, and we need to do it to where we can sustain that growth, specifically so that we can. Because if we get to the point where the people that live here can't afford to live here anymore, then it's no good for anyone. So those are a lot of challenges that I had, as I'm looking through this different lens, it really puts things in that different perspective.
So on the funding side, I'm not picking on impact fees, but on the funding side, not only do we have to worry about the consequences of what we're doing, but we have to do it proactively. In other words, if you wait till the people are already living there before you decide how you're going to get them water, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So you got to decide how you're going to get water. So in a municipality, you're in a different situation than you are maybe out in the county.
Right.
But still, you have a responsibility to be able to, if you want the city to grow, your responsibility is when that developer comes and says, I'm going to put a neighborhood right here. Well, how much water is Conroe going to now have to cough up
Right.
in order to do that? Not only do they have to cough up the water, who's going to get the water out there to it?
Right. And the sewer and the wastewater and all of those things.
And if you don't have some money set aside or some way to fund that, whether that be impact fees or however y'all choose to do it, but if somebody's not thinking about that, then the city is constantly in catch-up mode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Constantly broke, and then you don't have time to take care of the infrastructure and the other things that have to come along with the growth.
Right. And we've done, I think overall we've done a relatively good job of that, but we found ourselves recently, we've just gone through a pretty challenging budget process. We're going to finalize that budget next month, but we've funded our capital improvement projects through certificates of obligation. We've not done any municipal bonds in a long time, if ever. And so we've done it through COs, which is one way to fund it. But part of the problem is, in order to keep the tax rate where it is today, the credit card only goes so far, and our credit card is maxed on that. So that's a real budgeting act. And so again, we have to have the multiple types of water. We need both groundwater and we need surface water, right? So,
well, let's talk about that for a minute, just for a second. So, you just mentioned two probably the most obvious sources that any average citizen probably recognizes, right? You can drill a well and get water, or you can dam a lake up like Lake Conroe and you can put a treatment plant in and you can treat surface water or buy it from the Trinity River or wherever. What other sources of water are there besides that?
Well, interesting is if you look at the city of San Antonio, they import water.
Okay.
Right, and so what is it? Vista Ridge. Vista Ridge. That is an example. That's a private entity that and it was not a perfect solution, but it is an example.
San Antonio seems to like it.
Yeah, I think they get a tremendous amount of water. I think it's in the HEB area. I can't remember what county that is, but outside of Dallas, and a private company built a pipeline.
142 miles.
142 miles. They got the water rights from the ranchers in I guess
Burleson
and Hearst and Euless,
yep,
in that area, and they built a pipeline 142 miles, and they supply water to the city of San Antonio.
So there's export projects,
Yep,
meaning where there are less densely populated areas using a lot of water that have a lot of water under them.
It's a good.
The rancher says, I want to sell my water.
Exactly, and that's part of private property rights.
Okay.
And
What
then
else?
There's treatment of wastewater.
Yes, big
so
one.
That's a big one, and that's kind of like fracking in oil and gas, right? That was a technology that wasn't really available 25 years ago. And so as we see technology continuing to evolve and reclaiming water, and as that becomes more affordable.
What are the uses of the reclaimed water? So I know irrigation. I mean, you could clearly water your yard with it with impunity, basically.
Yeah.
What other? Do you know of any other uses?
I'm not a really big expert on that, but just if you think about that's my biggest. That's 85% of my water bill is just my irrigation.
Yeah.
right? And I would say for, especially as we're going through this right now, I grew up in El Paso, and it's eerily, representative of where I grew up, right? I mean, it's dead.
Everything's dead and brown.
And so, if we were just able to use that just for irrigation, a lot of these things.
So what are the, so I agree. I think that 85% of the water that we run in our sinks or in our washing machines or the car wash uses or whatever, that water just, we spend money to treat it and then we drop it in a stream somewhere or drop it in an outfall of some type, and it goes on its merry way, and then somebody somewhere else treats it, right, eventually, and uses it again that way, but they treat it for good clean water.
Right.
So when you think about reclaiming water, it seems like if you use it for the right things, like irrigation or whatever, the treatment, it doesn't have to meet such a high standard.
Yeah, if there was a way to reclaim for non-potable purposes, right, like irrigation and those types of things.
Well, or washing trucks.
Or
Let's assume I got a truck line. I want to wash my trucks out.
Yeah.
Do I really
car
need
washes.
potable water for
No.
the car wash? Do I need potable water for the car wash?
That could say that would be, those would be two really good examples.
Yeah. So that takes a huge load. If you think about how much water gets sprayed on lawns, how much water, I've got one of these easy tag car wash deals. I drive my car through that car wash every chance I get. And I think to myself, I wonder what they do with this water. You can't retreat it probably for human consumption. I mean, my car goes through like 9 stages. It gets waxed, it gets UV treatment, it gets soap, it gets whatever. I go through there, different colors of stuff are falling on it and all that. But then I think to myself, my yard really doesn't care, So I think that we haven't, maybe because of cost, maybe it's collecting the water and redistributing it is the problem. So we don't have a good distribution system for reclaimed water.
We don't, and I think it's just like anything, as technology continues to progress, right? Think about computers, think about anything, right? As technology evolves and matures, right? It gets faster, it costs less. So I think we're on the burgeoning edge. If you look at desalinization, that's something is becoming more. I'm sorry, I thought I turned that off. That's becoming more of a viable thing too. So there's a lot of different ways that I think we're going to address.
Now, when most people, so it seems to me like a municipality has an advantage in one way, in another way it doesn't have an advantage. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So a municipality, all of the water generally goes to localized or centralized, I don't know, it depends on who the municipality is, treatment plants, right? And so the collection of water becomes pretty easy, and you could treat it at that site. The problem becomes redistributing it for those kinds of uses. So that's, but you wonder, is that more expensive than building infrastructure for surface water?
Well, because if you think about it, it would be collecting it, sending it back to those, let's just call them reclamation centers, and then sending them.
How do you get it to the homeowner?
Yeah, exactly.
Or to the car wash. You could probably get it to the car wash quicker than you could the homeowner.
Yeah.
But I contend these new car washes don't use a lot of water.
No, they're built to do.
Well, even if they don't reuse it, the amount of water they actually spray on my car, I've been watching it, it's not a lot.
Yeah.
They use brushes. They're very judicious about the actual. It's sort of like get in the shower and get wet and turn the water off, soap yourself up, do your shaving and all that other stuff, and then rinse off, then turn the water back on and rinse off. That's the way the car wash actually feels to me now. So they're doing a pretty good job of it. But I guess rather than get down into the weeds on this, the reality is that just like surface water in Montgomery County is a more undeveloped source of water that'll help us in the long run, and may be as big of an answer almost as new water sources.
Yep.
So let's go back to alternative water sources. So we listed surface water, well water, reclaimed water, export projects. What else? What other sources are there?
I really can't think of any.
So what about alternative aquifers? So the desal.
Yeah. So I think, obviously.
People think of the ocean when they think of desalinization.
Yeah. So in our county, it's the Catahoula, right? And so that's the deepest, it's the biggest aquifer that we have. And the further south you go, the hotter it is, and the saltier it is. So desalinization is applicable when it comes to Catahoula. So there's two different challenges to that. Is it comes out extraordinarily hot, way hotter than that you could use for human consumption.
Yeah,
so you have to go to
house. I've got a well pretty close to my Catahoula well. It's a 95 to 97 degrees coming out of the ground.
But that's in Willis compared to
Yeah. We're north. We're up further north.
So the further south you go, the saltier it is, and the hotter it gets. So that requires a cooling station.
Treatment.
Yeah, and a lot more treatment. So again, those are things that we're considering from a city perspective, right? Is where can we, because we know we're going to need some incremental wells, right? Where can we look today that look to be viable places, knowing what we know about where the Catahoula has historically been viable? Where would be some good places for us to buy some property, sink a well, right? Acquire that property today so that we have it, because we know we're going to continue to grow, and have 2 or 3 different places so that in the future, when we need that incremental water, we have access to it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different reasons for it. There's a lot more water available. It's not currently being, there's no pumpage fees on that.
There actually is now.
Oh, is there? Well,
yeah,
it's
6
minimal.
cents.
Yeah.
It's minimal.
So it's minimal. It's not part of the DFC yet.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's
Which
not
is the
regulated
big one.
that way.
Not regulated that way.
So the more Catahoula water people could take, the further we stretch our Jasper, Evangeline, and Chico water.
Exactly.
Same thing with surface water. The more surface water people take, the more we stretch our aquifer.
So it's just being strategic about not over-exercising one particular resource. Right. So to the extent that you can balance your usage for the benefit of long-term use, and also from an affordability perspective, right? And unfortunately, we're going to have to, just because prices of everything, chemicals, all the stuff that we have to do to treat stuff has just gone up. The economy, the inflation of just everything has just forced us. We're going to have to continue, and it's anathema to me, because I ran on, restoring affordable water rates, and I'm still committed to trying that, but everything's just kind of going against us right now. But to the extent that we're looking at every possible thing that we can do to eke out every penny that we can.
It's interesting. I over at the Lone Star offices, we have water reclamation project. So we got these big tanks. We collect the water off the roof. So we save that water and try to irrigate the landscaping and all that with it. And I think back about my water bill in Magnolia, which was, Montgomery County has a huge problem still with this. They have an artificial price on water because of the GRP and all of that stuff. That I don't want to get into it, but people just need to know that I had a half-acre lot in Magnolia, and my water bill in the summer was about $750, which pales into comparison to yours. I'm sure you've had them over $1,000 already this year. I know last June you had one $1,500 one.
Well, we went to a smart system. City of Conroe did. We made a very big investment in smart metering, and I've gotten 3. Like, you have a water leak, because
of the amount
that I've been using, and that's just watering twice a week. And I'm on just
trying to keep the big plants alive.
Yeah, just the big plants, not the grass.
Let the grass go.
And it's still, so I can only imagine. But yes, there's been some commas in my water bill.
So interesting to me, I went and priced what would it take if I put a couple of these big things in my backyard and caught the water off my roof, and and when I was in Magnolia, I had a low spot. All the water ran to it and then finally worked its way to a ditch. Even putting a sump pump there to collect the water when it's raining. And I'll tell you, for a year's water bill, I could have put in two 2,500 gallon
Wow.
tanks that I probably could have filled 4 or 5 times a year to use for irrigation. And I guess the point I'm making is that many of these technologies we've talked about, or these water sources, aren't viable now, maybe, but they're going to become viable as water becomes more scarce. And water's going to become scarce at the speed at which development occurs.
Well, you and I testified earlier this year up in Austin,
Right.
At Senator Perry's hearings, and Senator Perry is, chairs the Natural Resources Committee there, and he lives in Lubbock. I think he's seen water a couple of times, but not much.
Yeah.
And he told us, that water is a huge issue across Texas.
Yep.
And again, growing up in El Paso, our landscaping choices is what color of rock
Yep.
you're going to have, and what kind
Rock
of
and sand.
and what kind of yucca. And
Yeah.
that was about it, right?
Yeah.
And so having a place where trees and grass grow at the same place at the same time was kind of a new thing for us. And so again, we're blessed, but that doesn't mean that we have to be very, very judicious about it, because the refresh rates and how many people are pumping out of which aquifer, all that, and
Yeah.
I know you've covered it a lot, so we don't want to go through there, but there's just a lot of things to consider. And again, through the lens of a city official, and looking at all the things that our public works team have to consider on that, it's really, really, I'm really impressed at the great work these guys do, because it's not only about getting it to people, having it be good, clean water,
Yep.
some of the best water,
Quality is a
good
big
quality
issue.
water. And then if it goes down, I mean, we had an issue this weekend where SGRA, they lost a pretty major pipe on a Friday, and the city had to get into
Real
rapid
jockeying,
response and,
yeah.
and jockey through 3 different wells just to divert so that nobody lost water. We all felt a little bit of the pressure all went down, but these guys just did their magic, and SGRA got their water thing back up on Saturday, and it took us until today for everything to settle back out. But that's the kind of thing that that the public doesn't really see. That
We
that
take
these
it
guys-
for granted.
We do.
Turn the tap on, I got water.
Yeah, it's like electricity. It's
turn
the
the light
ubiquity
switch
of utilities, right?
So let's now. So I think this has been really interesting, and hopefully we've enlightened people to all the different options there are with water. But here's the thing I'm the most concerned about, and that is I live in Montgomery County. Conroe's in Montgomery County. Willis is in Montgomery County. Shenandoah, Magnolia.
the fine city of Splendora is
Fine city of Splendora. Great place. Got a guy there named Hank Vatt, a super guy. If you don't listen to his podcast, you're missing out. But that said, I don't really feel comfortable about the level of comprehensive planning at a higher level than just. So the city of Conroe could do all it wants to do, and yet outside sources could make it impossible for you to meet your needs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you're going to be able to meet your needs with drilling more water wells. I don't know that you will. I think you will for the near term.
Well, yeah,
right?
that's
But at some point, 2035, and we want to be prepared for that. So let's talk a little bit about strategic water planning at the county level, right? Because groundwater is done at the county level right now. That's how we regulate it.
Mm-hmm.
Surface water right now is at the county level. So you got the Woodlands, you got Porter getting some water, I believe, and you've got the city of Conroe getting the surface water. But that just doesn't, to me, look like it's a very comprehensive, strategic answer that would make me feel good if I were a developer or I were moving my family here to live for the rest of my life in Montgomery County. I don't feel that comfortable with it. So one thing is, do we get enough water? The other thing is it affordable? Are we planning in a way that we can make it affordable? and be a little bit more just in time. So, we can argue all day, but that water plant on Lake Conroe was built way years before it was needed, and there was an artificial process used to pay for it. In fact, you're on the GRP committee. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but let's talk a little bit about what do you think about strategic water planning in the county? What should we be doing? Who ought to be involved? And
well, that is a good question, and that's the challenge is what do you consider to be regional? And that's because that opens up Pandora's box really quickly.
Yep.
So I think a countywide, I don't know what the right word is, coalition, or I think that the major stakeholders, I think we should have some sort of a much more coordinated effort of all the strategic players, so that we are more united in this. Now we have, you mentioned the GRP. There's 80 participants in that already. So that we've already come up, and those are private, larger and smaller groundwater organizations. There's the usual suspects: the Woodlands, Conroe, Magnolia, all the cities Porter. That we have, Porter. I think the county in and of itself, obviously Lone Star needs to be part of it. SRA needs to have a seat at the table. Right. So, I think if we can, we're negotiating, the general manager is gone. It's a new day. We're committed to going back to the table, negotiating with SRA in good faith to see what we can come up with. I think, once things are resolved and everybody puts their swords away, I think we have an obligation to all of our constituents or citizens to do what's best for all of us. I take that very, very seriously. I know you do too. I think we all do. And so if we can sit down and say, okay, how are we going to do this? And if we can do this holistically, I think there was some legitimacy to the goals of the GRP.
Absolutely.
Just the way that it was forced on everybody.
Forced doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Right. I mean, there was a lot of very legitimate concern and rationale for what they did. How they forced it on us was the whole issue.
Yeah, there wasn't one voter got to vote on any of that money.
Any of that stuff. So I think that's what people really need to believe. Need to understand. I believe it, and so I think if we dust it off and put it back in and say, okay, what were the goals and objectives? They're more real now than they ever were, and how can we do this collaboratively?
Yes, and not have one small group have an
overarching.
Set of power to control what happened and have an agenda.
Absolutely.
The agenda's got to be what's best for Montgomery County citizens.
Yeah.
And I think it could even be bigger. I think we have, of course you know about this, citizens probably don't, the average one. We do a 16-county groundwater management planning area. Yeah. So the northern Gulf Coast aquifers, so our 4 aquifers, 5 really, are divided into 3. You got the southern, the central, and the northern. We're the northern, and that's shared across 16 counties. And the aquifer doesn't care about a county line.
No.
So it would seem to me like if we're going to plan for how to use the aquifer the best, part of that planning ought to include how do we include those other counties, not just in setting a DFC, but how do we look? Growth is coming at them. People are sitting over in Waller and Liberty and Grimes and all these other counties, and they feel like they're pretty rural right now. Well, I can tell you, I moved to Magnolia in 2007, and by 2011, it went from a 2-lane 1488 strip with nothing on it to 1960.
Yeah.
The same thing happened. I moved to Willis. trying to get away from that. You know what? 1097 is now 4 lanes concrete and is going to look like 1960.
Same with Conroe, yeah.
Well,
I lived on
okay, so
1960.
let's go further out. Let's go to San Jacinto County. Let's go to Waller County. Let's go to all these outlying counties that feel like they're rural. It's coming at them way faster than they realize. And they're going to find themselves in the same place. And Montgomery County's in a unique place. We're the fastest growing population-wise. We're in the center of it. We're bordered to the biggest, most populous, Harris County. And so we're in a very unique situation, but it's not going to be unique long.
Well, the message that I heard loud and clear, and I know you did because we've discussed this,
Right.
is we heard from several legislators,
Yeah.
not only the ones who represent us, but several in Austin. Is that
Powerful guys.
yeah, gentlemen? Because it was all guys that were there. Y'all better fix your house now, or we're going to fix it for you.
Yeah, and we won't like the fix.
And we're not going to like the fix. So the onus is on us to take the leadership role, to look at things, and if we can come back and say, you know what, we have a plan, and this is the plan. This is how we were able to come to terms, and I don't know what those are, but I think if
There's smart people, Harry, who can figure this out.
yes, there are, and I think I would much rather be in charge of my own destiny than have somebody else.
I don't want the state in charge of our destiny. I don't want some outside private entity in charge of our destiny. So let me throw a couple of figures at you. Lake Conroe is purported to have 33,000 acre feet of production. So 100,000 acre feet a year can go through that lake and be utilized. The lake has, I don't remember how many million acre feet in it, but it's a bunch. But only 100,000, so it has a very small watershed. So its productivity, you can count on taking 100,000 acre feet out of it without damaging the lake, having to lower it so low that people can't use it and all of that. Of that, SJRA has ownership of a third. So they have 33,000 acre feet. The rest of it belongs to the city of Houston. So you could say Montgomery County, in the form of the Woodlands and Conroe, has access to that 33,000 acre feet right now. At one time, the SJRA had a reserve, or first right of refusal, on 50,000 acre feet reserved in Trinity.
Mm-hmm. They still do.
No, they don't.
Oh,
it's
they
down
do?
to 25,000
Oh, is it? No.
this year. It's going to 25,000. So because we haven't thought clearly or gotten together either in this county or this area and figured out what we're going to do, other people are stepping in and taking those reserves. They may not be available to us if we don't do something to tie that stuff and know how much we're going to tie it up, how we're going to use it, when we're going to use it. So the thing that scares me right now is that I don't see, you're worried about it, I'm worried. I know a bunch of people that are worried about this because it is going to affect the growth of this county. Maybe not so much that it'll limit it, but it'll make living here way more expensive. So when you've got people having to pay $600 and $700 a month for their water, Montgomery County doesn't become as desirable, right? That's a car payment for most people, not a water payment, and it's higher than their electric bill. And so when you've got a $500 a month electric bill and a $600 a month water bill, and your taxes are $500 a month, all of a sudden, Montgomery County is not that affordable. It starts to lose some of its luster. And, maybe that's okay for some people, but
Not for the average person.
not for the average person. The average person's struggling, to put their kids through school, fund a college education for them if they want it,
Retire.
health insurance, retirement, all that other stuff. And having unaffordable water is just one more obstacle in their way. And I think it behooves us to somehow or another get the right people together and do something about this. Start looking at this problem objectively. And when I say objectively, not the way it was looked at in the past, because I agree with you. I think having a surface water resource is smart. And I don't know that the resource we've got is big enough even. So then what do we do? If we find out that Lake Conroe is not a big enough resource to take Montgomery County to 2070 or 26 or 2050, what do we do? You think there's going to be more room to build another reservoir if that's what we decide we need? If we wait? No.
Yeah, no.
So I think it really makes sense that people start really getting serious about putting their heads together.
You're right.
And so one thing I know we got some really smart, dedicated, unbiased, no separate agenda people in Montgomery County are willing to work on this. I know that for a fact. I think we've probably got the best legislative contingent of any county in the state of Texas. We got Will Metcalf, Brendan Creighton, Ernest Bales, Lois
Cecil Bell,
Colcourse,
yeah.
bless her heart.
Cecil Bell.
Cecil Bell, great legislator.
Steve Tuff,
Betancourt, Paul Betancourt. So we've got a contingent of people legislatively that I think are behind us and would support us.
Well, if nothing else, the SRA issue has brought to light this, like, I think, in no other county.
Yeah.
And at the legislative level, I think it brought to light several issues with river authorities and how water is governed. So water is a huge issue in Texas.
It is.
And so everybody is struggling with this same thing. So we're not alone. We still have an opportunity to take destiny in our own hands. Mm-hmm. And shame on us if we don't take that opportunity. And I'll be honest with you. There was a couple years there that I had my I had my blinders on, and but having the advantage of being in a couple of different seats, I think frankly because I had the Lone Star seat and now the city of Conroe seat, I'm in a very unique position to see this issue in a very different way than really anybody.
Yeah.
So I have to say, hey, guilty as charged previously. Now's the time to really say, okay, guys, we have to come together.
Yep.
We have to take this issue on, because if not, it's going to be a very daunting thing.
Right. Yeah. So we have to understand our aquifers and see how much we can actually take. We have to understand what resources are available to us outside of that. So how much water can we get out of Lake Conroe? Surface water is available. How much could we get from the Trinity River? Do we need to build another reservoir? Can we buy more water from Lake Livingston? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what those, I know there's a lot of sources out there. I don't know what's available to us. And I don't think anybody else is really paying a lot of attention to that. I know the SGRA is paying attention to Trinity, which comes out of Lake Livingston.
Right.
I know they have their eye on that, and I know they know how much they can get from the city of Houston. But, even at best, that's 58,000 acre feet. We're already pumping more than that in Montgomery County. So if you can make the extrapolation that Montgomery County is going to go from 600,000 in population to 1.2 million.
I think it's probably closer to 2 million.
Okay, so let's just say by 2040 we're at 1.2 million. That means that all the resources that we currently have identified are used up.
Yeah, we're at 100% capacity.
We're at 100% capacity. And let me tell you something, 2045 is going to be on people pretty quick. So I just had my third great-granddaughter born today. My youngest granddaughter's 23, and it seems like it was yesterday she was born. Mm-hmm. That 20-year window that I'm talking about, 25 years, it goes like that. And it'll be on us, and we'll be in trouble, or we'll be spending an exorbitant amount of money when we didn't have to, if we as citizens don't start trying to figure this out. And we need the leaders in the community to do this. We need our legislators to step up. We need our city councils to step up. We need our mayors. We need our commissioners court to be thinking about this. And look, I know all these guys are busy. And right now, you walk over and turn that tap on, you got water. And my sprinklers come on. I can run them 4 times a day if I want to. Right? But this is kind of a false economy that we're living under with this stuff. And so I think it behooves people to take this uber boring subject So we have probably, between the two of us today, put untold dozens of people to sleep talking about water.
Yeah, there's no shallow end in groundwater. It's
There is
pretty
no
deep.
shallow end, but it's also boring.
Yeah.
You know, when you start talking to people about this stuff, their eyes start to glaze over and all this. Now, here's what I will tell you. I don't have to eat tonight. I'm going to be okay. I don't have to eat tomorrow. I'm going to be okay. I bet you a month from now, if I didn't have one bite to eat, I might look as good as Hank Vatt looks. From where I am, I could probably go to a guy looking like Hank Vatt. I don't get a drink of water about that third day, I'm done. So it's really lulling that we've done such a good job so far getting people what they need. But it's like anything else. If people don't wake up now and start thinking about the future, it takes time to build all this stuff. It takes time to develop all this stuff. You don't just do it overnight. And the less proactive you are, the more expensive it's going to be. And the harder it's going to be to get it done. So I hope the citizens today get a little bit of how important it is for, and you can talk about this, Harry. You know, if you're a citizen in Conroe, go to the city council meeting.
Yep.
Right? What do you guys respond to? The citizens.
The citizens.
Right?
And I'll tell you, an informed citizen is a powerful citizen.
I'm telling you.
Right? And we welcome it. You know, we meet the second and fourth Wednesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays at 2 o'clock, and those are our workshops, and that's where, you know, we make the sausage. Conversations, and then Thursdays the second the second week is done at 9:30 a.m. and then the fourth Thursdays at 6 p.m. So if you a morning person, you can come, and that's where we vote. That's a regular council meeting, and we have public comments before every meeting, and so you have your 3 minutes to comment on whatever you want to, and we have people that take advantage of that every meeting.
Yeah, I try to look at as many of y'all's meetings as I can. I look at as many of the commissioner meetings as I can. And look, water is not the number one burning issue on anybody's slate. And I get it. This is a problem. I call it a second order. It's a first order priority as far as whether you need it or not, but it's a second order business deal. So right now, there are other things that y'all do at city council that really are taking priority over the future of water. They really do. I mean, look, if you got potholes in the street and people are tearing their tires off their cars, or you don't have ambulances and fire engines to go get people in wrecks, that's a much higher priority. But I don't see enough discussion about this. I can't tell you the last time I watched a commissioner's court meeting where I heard water being talked about.
Well, because it's a hard issue to talk about.
It is, and no one's in charge.
Well, that's the thing. That's what the county would tell you, is that they don't have authority on it, but they have a voice. And again, I think if we can do things collaboratively, we can all have a voice. If we get a plan together, then, and it's been a festering issue, let's be clear.
Yep, it has.
Right? There's been millions of dollars spent in litigation.
Yep.
Don't want to go down that road, but I mean, and people are tired of hearing it.
Yep.
People are tired of fighting it.
Yep.
I'm praying that we're getting
Yeah, I don't want to fight. I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Let's get this thing done. Yeah. And we have to come up with some solutions, because it's a new day, and every day that we don't take advantage of that is a day lost, and it's not going away.
Yeah. So here's my contention, and maybe I'm Pollyanna-ish and all that. My contention is, if enough people like you and I and Mike Stecker, who was on here last week, and Simon Cicada, the owner of Quadvest, or I can name all these people who are highly interested in water for whatever reason. The more they talk about this and the more they get citizens aware of this, the more likely we are to come to us. Because I think until the citizens demand it, or at least get it high enough on the agenda that people have to start talking about it, I think it's going to be a hard row to hoe. I really do. Like I said, I just don't see anybody stepping up, and I don't see the mechanism for it. So what is the mechanism for somebody saying, let's get a task force together and let's start looking at the situation. Let's understand it for what it is right now, and let's understand what it's going to take to get us to 2070.
Well, and I think we have to. I think that the absolute first commitment on that is the we has to be the collective we.
Yes, I agree.
Not the Conroe we or the
I
Woodlands
agree.
we
I
or the
agree.
whatever. The Montgomery County we.
Yeah.
And I think if everybody goes in with that one rule first and foremost,
It's going to be equitable.
yeah, everything else is on the table.
Yep.
But that has got to leave
Yep.
at the door. That's got to be left at the
right,
front door.
right.
And I think if we can approach it from that perspective, we stand a chance.
Well, I'm going to keep pounding my head. I know you are too,
Yeah.
and I know you're pushing as hard as you can, and I for one appreciate it. It's helpful to us. I'm on the Lone Star board, and I'm the president of that board, and I can tell you the work you guys are doing in Conroe is very helpful to the rest of the county, and I know that there are people in the county who see this problem. I know our legislators are aware of it. I think there's a core of people in Conroe, in Montgomery County, who have made the legislators, who are keeping it at the forefront. And bless our legislators' heart, they're not pushing back from that. They're not avoiding it. They are interested in it. They're limited in the amount they can do also.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe somewhere, somehow, we're going to have to find a way to get exactly what you said, a group of people who check their biases at the door
Mm-hmm.
and come in, and everybody is going to have to share in the wealth as
And the
well
pain.
as the pain.
Yep.
And I think there's a chance that we can make Montgomery County an example or a model for this kind of stuff, because I don't see many places in the country that are growing like Montgomery County's growing.
No.
And we're going to face this sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
Well, Harry, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspectives and
My
your
pleasure.
wisdom, of course, always your wisdom. And I just like spending time with you anyway.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
And I hope you keep pounding on this. I know I'm going to. I believe you are.
Yeah.
And I think there's others in the county who are going to do it. So thank you.
It's always
I appreciate it. Always good time to
Absolutely.
good to spend time with you.
absolutely. Next time, just come out of your show a little bit more.
Yeah.